And this question word 几 we can use to ask how many for a whole bunch of things. So we've already learned how to say I have 5 friends, I have 6 friends. I can ask you 你有几个朋友? How many friends do you have? And you could respond 我有5个朋友,我有6个朋友. But then maybe if you're asking somebody how many employees they have or how many students a school has, usually you're going to have more than, say, 10 students or employees. So you'd use 多少,你有多少人, ren here means people. 你有多少人, or 你的公司, your company, 有多少人, 你的学校, 学校 school, 有多少人. This is actually a good opportunity to jump into how to say student. So if I am a student, I can say 我是学生,我是学生. 学 is a verb meaning to study. 学生 means student. 学生. 大学生 is university student. 大学 is university. 我是大学生. I am a high school student. 我是高中生. 我是高中生. I am a middle school student. 我是初中生. 我是初中生. And then if I am a primary school student, 我是小学生,我是小学生. Now again, what qualifies as university, high school, middle school, primary school is different country to country. In China, I think middle school is years 5 to 9, I believe, and then high school is 10 to 12. Whereas in Australia, our high school is years 8 to 12, and then we have a primary school, which is basically year 1 to year 7. So again, the specifics of what year ends when is, it depends, it varies country to country. But university is always 大学生, and then high school student it's safe to ask 你是高中生. So coming back to that verb 学 to study. If I want to say I am studying Chinese, 我学中文. 中文 means Chinese. 我学中文. Just a little historical diversion here. So the Chinese word for the Chinese language is 中文, and the Chinese word for China is 中国. 中国. So you see they share the word 中. 中 literally means middle. So 中文 literally means middle language. 中国 literally means middle kingdom. So if you've ever heard of Chinese referred to as the Middle Kingdom, it's because the Chinese word for China, literally translated, means Middle Kingdom. And there's various historical reasons for that, which I'm not going to go into today, but it's actually a really interesting story if you want to look it up on your own. But there are actually a couple of ways of saying the Chinese language. So the first one, most common, is 中文. The next one is 汉语. 汉语. So 语, third tone, is just another way of saying language. So for example, English is 英文, 英语, both the same meaning, English. And that word 英 is simply a transliteration of the English word England. So the Chinese found the closest Chinese sounds to the ing in England, which is ying, first tone ying, to translate English into 英语, 英文. So 中文, 汉语 also means Chinese. Now, Han here refers to the Han ethnicity, if you've ever heard of Han people, H-A-N. So one word of saying Chinese, so one way of saying Chinese there is 汉语. So 中文 means the middle language. 汉语 literally is the language of the Han people. Another way of saying, which is probably rare inside China, it's more common outside China, is 华语. 华语. So 华 refers to ethnically Chinese people. So the Chinese have this concept of China the country and then China the ethnicity, because people who speak Chinese aren't just limited to China. You've got, Singapore, Taiwan, Malaysia. You've got expatriates all in America, Australia, the UK, all across the world. And so they're referred to as Hua people, who are ethnically Chinese, even if they don't necessarily have Chinese citizenship or live in China. So we've got a few ways to say Chinese language: 中文, 汉语, 华语, and then finally we also have 普通话, 普通话, which literally translated means common language. 话 is another way of saying language. I know it gets a little complicated, but you eventually get to memorize all these different words for the same thing. 普通 means common, 话 means language. So 普通话. 普通话 specifically refers to Mandarin. So that's the Chinese we're learning now. Keep in mind, when we say Chinese, there's actually dozens of different dialects and languages this could refer to. It could refer to Hokkien, it could refer to Cantonese, it could refer to the Min language. There's actually a whole bunch of languages that come under the Chinese umbrella. But the standard language, which is the official language of China, the one that everybody learns inside China, and that all the government documents, all the laws, etc., are written in, is Mandarin, 普通话. So, to recap, we have 中文, 汉语, 华语, and 普通话. A whole bunch of words, a whole bunch of different ways to say Chinese language. To be honest with you, if you just stick with 中文, you'll be fine. I have never heard anybody who has been confused or didn't quite understand what you meant when you say 我学中文, I'm studying Chinese. If you want to say I can speak Chinese, so speak is 说, 说 first tone. Now, can, there are a few different ways of saying can. In this context, the easiest way is 会. 我会说中文, 我会说中文, I can speak Chinese. We've already been through English. 我会说英文, 我会说英语, 我会说中文, 我会说汉语, 我会说普通话. All different ways of saying I can speak Chinese. If we want to say I can speak German, 我会说德语. 德语 is German. And again, 德语 means the language of the German people. 德 here comes from 德国, which means Germany. 我会说法语. 法语 is French, which is the language of the French people, because France in Chinese is 法国. 法国. 我会说法语. I can speak French.